Hello, everyone, and welcome. This is the FOC, back with this week's news to review. The storyline for the 11th expansion for World of Warcraft sees the void entity Xal'atath leading an invasion that threatens to engulf Azeroth in darkness. New and reworked zones are introduced, including significant updates to the Kel'Thalos region, additional open-world activities designed to provide more dynamic encounters. In-game content is expanded through new delves, which are designed for solo and small group play, additional dungeons and raids, improvements to user interface and quality life systems, which are intended to streamline player progression. The expansion adds a player housing feature, which allows players to obtain and customize personal spaces within Azeroth. Housing items are earned through gameplay, professions, and achievements. Player housing has been a requested feature for the entire 20 years of the game's existence, so this was a very welcome addition. The long wait has been worth it, as it is a very customizable system. This has led to some very interesting housing designs. The system seems to only be limited by the player's imagination. I've never been one to spend too much time on housing. Just give me a nice small spot on a hill with some decorations and I'm good. There is a tier system involved, so people who love spending time on housing have a nice mini game. I'm far more interested in checking out the new prey system, delves, and the solo raiding when that becomes available.
We usually do.
Alright, chums up.
Ready, guys?
Let's do this. Leroy Dragons!
Oh my god, he just ran in.
World of Warcraft has certainly come a long way from the forced group progression game that it used to be. The best of the best gear is still locked behind mythical raids, but delves give you heroic track level gear, which is more than enough for a solo player. This has changed the dynamics of the game. Player power and progression is no longer gatekept by sweat lords. Always demand groups with higher eye level than the raid or mythic dungeon demands. The social aspect isn't what it used to be, but frankly, neither is the attitude of the player community. I first started playing MMOs with Star Wars Galaxies. Back then, players were much more friendly and had a lot more patience to help new players learn the game. Today, forget it. I've seen players kicked out of leveling dungeons for some of the most ridiculous reasons. Players who can't keep up with a tank who aggroes an entire dungeon while he races to the end are kicked out. Eventually, players like me who play for fun and not competition left the game. Blizzard saw this and for the past few expansions have shifted their focus more and more to the solo player. Delves, solo dungeons, solo raids, the prey system, and now housing. The future for solo players in World of Warcraft looks very bright indeed. In other Blizzard news, Blizzard President Johanna Faries did a recent interview with Variety. He teased that there is more behind the curtain to be revealed at BlizzCon. In addition to more games, Blizzard is working on expanding its IPs like Warcraft, Overwatch, and Diablo beyond just video games. She said there are near-term discussions across almost every one of its franchises. Blizzard is discussing what format and creative teams are the right choice to bring Blizzard's worlds to new audiences in a high-caliber way. We want to be able to create new fans who may not have been with us for the past 35 years. How we continue to engage Hollywood or film and TV in bigger ways is going to be, in the near term, probably a big part of that recipe. I enjoyed the Warcraft movie and was disappointed that there was no follow-up to it. The end credit cutscene with the baby thrall Moses motif was the perfect segue into the Warcraft 3 story. A movie involving the downfall of Arthas and Thrall leading his people to Kalimdor would have been a cool movie. Diablo also has some interesting stories. Imagine a movie or streaming series with Deckard Cain as your storyteller. He can narrate a story about the conflict with the Prime Evils. We can learn about the original members of the Haradrim, this ancient order of magicians who are charged with trapping the Prime Evils within enchanted crystals and guarding them. Just Diablo and Warcraft alone have a rich history of lore and characters that should satisfy any audience that loves fantasy.
An ancient evil yearns for his freedom. We must keep him in the dark.
This latest news from Grinding Gear Games is being welcomed by longtime fans of Path of Exile. When co-founder Chris Wilson left and League started getting delayed, PoE 1 fans were concerned that PoE 2 was going to become the focus of the company. PoE 2 has been a bit controversial to Path of Exile fans. There's a large number of them that love it, but there is also a large number of fans who hate it. They hate the slow, tedious grind. They hate the long, drawn-out maps. They hate the long boss fights. They hate dodge rolling, etc., etc., etc. PoE 1 is their Diablo 2 or their vanilla WoW. That game that they fell in love with, and nothing will ever replace it. This 45-minute deep dive from Grinding Gear Games clearly shows that OG Path of Exile is still a priority for the company. New rewards, new skills, support gems, new uniques, and a huge overhaul of the endgame. No company spends time and resources overhauling the endgame unless that game is in their future plans. The response has been mostly positive. This is a smart business strategy by GGG. Too many companies let live service games wither and die when they don't hit or keep the right numbers. The game might be more than a decade old, but there is still a very large contingent of people not only playing the game, but looking for a reason to spend more money on it. Blizzard recently dropped their own bombshell by creating new content and a new class for Diablo 2 Resurrected, a game far older than Path of Exile. I would not be surprised if game developers move in this direction. In today's economy, licensing and developing games is far more expensive than it used to be. Projects cost millions and millions of dollars, and it gets more expensive every day. We've seen companies go out of business right after a new game releases. Some games don't even make it to a launch because of funding issues. Even Star Wars, one of the most well-known IPs on the planet, has canceled or delayed numerous gaming projects. Notable delays include the Knights of the Old Republic remake, Star Wars Eclipse, and the recently canceled Mandalorian first-person shooter. Creating new content for an established game is much cheaper than creating a whole new game from scratch. Do not be surprised if more older games all of a sudden start getting new expansions. In the last bit of news, Netflix dropped its bid to buy Warner Brothers after the studio announced that Paramount's latest bid to buy the entire company was superior. Netflix decided that they wouldn't match Paramount's latest offer as it was deemed no longer financially attractive. Critics of Netflix are concerned about the streaming giant's growing influence and whether it will commit to theatrical windows for film releases in support of movie theaters. Critics of the Paramount bid fear that putting two legacy studios under one company would lead to mass layoffs, and they worry about Ellison taking over CNN. In my opinion, it didn't matter to me which streaming service won. I subscribe to Netflix because I'm a WWE fan. I sometimes subscribe to Paramount Plus because I'm also a Star Trek fan. Netflix acquiring WBD would have been interesting for the simple fact that Warner Bros. Discovery is a minority owner of All Elite Wrestling, a direct competitor to the WWE. With Paramount Plus winning the war, AEW at least doesn't have to face that hurdle, but the sale was going to have repercussions regardless of who won. I'm not concerned about film releases in movie theaters because, frankly, movie theaters have priced themselves out of reach of the average American family. A large popcorn and soda is as expensive as a rack of ribs at a barbecue joint. Coupled with the escalating high prices of tickets, families are now choosing to stay home and watch entertainment in the comfort of their living rooms, on their own home theater systems, with the ability to pause for bathroom breaks. So I have no sympathy for the decline in the movie theater business. They brought this all onto themselves. I'm also not going to go into the whole Ellison taking over CNN bit, because that's more of a political discussion, and I created this channel to escape that nonsense. My subscriptions to Paramount Plus is only when Strange New Worlds is on. Once that season ends, I cancel the sub and don't reactivate it until the next season begins. I did re-up it when Starfleet Academy launched, but I quickly canceled after 4 episodes of that atrocity. Warner Brothers Discovery is the owner of some very valuable IPs. Harry Potter, the DC Universe, Lord of the Rings, horror franchises like It, even classic animation like the Flintstones and Scooby-Doo, which I grew up with. This would bring a much-needed content infusion into the service. Welcome to Derry had an exceptional first season, and I'm looking forward to the new Harry Potter series, which is supposed to be a more faithful adaptation of the books than the movies were. I remain optimistic, but what do you think? Were you pulling for Netflix or Paramount Plus? Thoughts on WoW Midnight or the upcoming PoE League? Please leave your respectful comments below. Like and subscribe, please, and I will see you next time.